Welcome to our Quick Fire Friday podcast. This is the Grow a Small Business Podcast Friday series, designed for people who need big insights in little time. In just 20 minutes each week, with no fluff, just real, proven tactics from people who know their stuff. With your hosts, Mick, AJ, and me, Rob Cameron.
Welcome everyone. Today I'm interviewing Mitch McPherson, who is the founder and team lead for Stay ChatTY. And Mitch is based in Hobart in Tasmania, where I also live. So thanks for your time, mate.
No, it's a pleasure. Great to be with you. We probably could have jumped in the same office together, couldn't we? Just up the road.
Just about. We're not far apart. So Mitch, you'll give you a bit of an introduction about yourself, but today we're going to be talking about the importance of mental health and running a small business and I guess how they combine, and more so, I guess, that awareness around mental health these days, which is a lot better than, when I was running a business many years ago. So just to kick off, mate, just give us a bit about your background and experience on this topic, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, I've been a mental health advocate for nearly 12 years now. I came out of I was working as a glazier by trade, so I'd finished my qualification back as a 25-year-old and living a pretty carefree life and not too many things worried me. I sort of played a bit of footy and spent a lot of time with my mates and my partner, who is now my wife. And life changed in 2013 when I lost my little brother, Ty, to suicide. And look, I knew around that time of my life I needed a bit of a shake up and a kick up the backside, if you like, just in terms of I wasn't very passionate about the things that I was doing in my life. I was just sort of coasting and I knew I needed that sort of slap around the face, but that sort of, gave me that times a million, if you like. And it obviously came in the most devastating of circumstances. And, I lost my best friend and my little brother that night, and my world will never ever be the same since that night. But I suppose over, long story short, dealing with copious amounts of grief and suicide is a different beast of a grief. It just brings so many different emotions that you didn't probably ever think that you would feel, particularly when it was my brother and someone that I spent so much time with. But, in grieving, I also learned a lot about mental health, and, I learned a lot about that there was more conversations that I could have had and more awareness I could have looked out for in my little brother, but also the conversations that I'd been having with friends and family over the years. I realized I was absolutely rubbish at it. And I realized that what I'd learned through the death of my brother, I can probably, put that out there to the wider world and start talking about it and hopefully prevent others from going through it. So yeah, it is a long story short, but the logo I've got here, Stay ChatTY, is a tribute to my little brother. It was a car sticker. 12 years on now, we've got a team of 7 team members. We deliver programs into schools, workplaces, and sporting clubs all around Tasmania. I travel the country and speak, and I aim to break down stigma. I aim to better educate people around mental health, but also understand the services that are available to them. So, life is very different to what it was back in 2013. But, I love my life now. I have a real sense of passion, purpose, and a real why. And I spring out of bed and love being involved in any conversations around mental health. So a full 180 in my life, Mick, but loving every bit of it, given obviously going through, a terrible tragedy of what I went through, 12 years ago.
Yeah, and I guess seeing what you've been doing, it's amazing what you've done as far as raising awareness around mental health through the Stay ChatTY platform, if you like. So I guess from your perspective, what are the biggest mental health challenges that small business owners face?
Yeah, look, and I suppose prefacing as well that from the outset that I've ran this not-for-profit, of course, and then we engaged with Relationships Australia Tasmania. And look, a lot of people always touch base with me about how did Stay ChatTY grow to where it is, and there's no doubt I worked my backside off, and I was pretty good with my networking skills, my conversational skills, and I believed in what I was doing. But there's no doubt the support from Relationships Australia and backing us in as a small charity has helped us elevate to where we are today. So I'm not a small business owner, of course, but I certainly do a lot of work with businesses, small, large, small scale, big scale, around mental health. And I obviously go in there and share the story about what I do in my life. But then also it's really important to, when you share a story, to also encourage action. And that's what I do with my 5 ways to make a difference. How can staff and people get off their backside after hearing a devastating story of loss, walk out of that room and feel empowered to make change? So I suppose that's why I'm here today, as a person that's got the lived experience, has done a lot of work with those businesses around Tassie, but has certainly got the knowledge as well, and the understanding of mental health. But look, I suppose from my perspective, one of the biggest challenges in mental health small business owners face is probably the people. I think that's probably one of the biggest things, and not necessarily, not the people, of course. Like, we love the people that work in our teams, and I'm all about building relationships and getting a deep understanding of them. And it's not just work is work, but there's also a lot of things that come with it: family life and marriage and kids, and adopting that and taking that on as a business owner to get a better understanding of that person. But I definitely think the challenges that people face, which are really heightened at the moment, you would know that and talk about that a lot with cost of living and the challenges that we all face. I suppose it's about understanding that as an employer, and getting to that person's level and being willing to have those conversations and the vulnerability around that. So many places where I walk into, a boss or an employer might say that they're passionate about mental health, and they might say that they deeply care about the people. But I'll never forget, one day I did a presentation, and the employer introduced me, pumped me up, told everyone how good I was. And then as I started speaking, he walked to the back of the room and shut his office door, and, went and did some work. And I lost the audience in that moment. I could see them sort of looking back, where is he? And then at the end, he came out and thanked me, and, gave me a bottle of wine and sent me on my way. That doesn't work. So I think that it's okay to say it, it's okay to promote it, and it's okay to advocate for it. But it's the getting in and having those understanding and those deep conversations with those people. And I think that's the challenge. That's the challenge for the people, is to know their people, but also to be willing to go to their level to have those conversations when they're struggling and when they might be going through a tough time. Because when you look at the stats, Mick, so many more people are struggling these days, more than ever. So I think that's a challenge for a business owner to understand their people, but also a challenge in terms of getting in and having the conversation.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I guess, with business owners or anybody, I mean, you can talk about it, but your actions really are the important piece. And to that example you gave, and I guess from a, employee's perspective, what an owner does and promotes around mental health is so important. They've got to,
Yep.
walk the walk, right?
Yep.
And
Oh, no, absolutely. Walking the walk. Sorry to butt in. I mean, that's exactly right. And I mean, that's something for me too, is that I know that we're a charity, but also businesses collaborate as well. And I think that walking the talk, I always get that phrase wrong, but I used to, jump into bed with anyone that wanted to support Stay Chatty back in the day. It was, when you're a small business or a small not-for-profit, you want the support from everyone. But that's been a real growth thing for me over time, is understanding who actually believes in what you're doing, who believes in the difference that you can make for them and their people, as opposed to how it might look on social media and whatnot. So I think that's the same with small business. Collaboration should only be with people that truly believe in what you're doing, that are standing alongside you and not in front of you. And as you said, walking the talk. And I think that really stands out really clearly once you get to know and work with people.
Want specific advice to help you get your business through its #1 growth challenge? Book a free 20-minute growth chat with me, Troy, the founder of Grow a Small Business. I'll recommend some resources which will help you grow your business with ease so you can live the lifestyle you've signed up for. Go to growasmallbusiness.com and click on Growth Chat.
Yeah, so what are some early warning signs that a business owner or someone in their team might be struggling mentally or emotionally?
Look, and this is the thing as well. I mean, back in the day, and I know that early days, I would really heavily promote, change is really important to look out for. But a lot of it was, and around mental health as well, there's always the conversation around mental health being sad and a negative. And that's not always the case as well. Yes, more likely than ever, if someone's going through a tougher time and they've got some challenges outside of work and with their family and financial and whatnot, they will be late to work. They will have low mood. They will not be engaging in conversations. They will be skipping sport or exercise, and they physically might change. So that's a really big thing to look out for. But there's also lots of stories where people do the opposite, that they might be a quiet person, then all of a sudden they're up and about, they're really putting themselves forward. They're becoming really proactive. They're earlier than normal. They're staying back late. So therefore, I always really say it's really important to look out for just change, no matter whether it's positive or no matter whether it's negative. Change is something as an employer that we should always, and a leader and a boss, manager, whatever, we should always just be looking out for those changes, because that will more than likely or not signify that something is happening in that person's life. So anyone out there listening, just sit back and have a think about getting to know the people that you work with and on the deepest level possible, but then always just keeping your wits about you and just being willing to notice when there's some change going on in their life and how they act around the workplace.
Mm. And from what you're saying, obviously an important part of that is get to know your people. So that invites a different conversation around just, I guess, communication, having meetings that are regular. We're a big promoter of weekly one-on-one meetings with direct reports, it be that the owner or the managers. And from what you're saying, that can also play a big part in one, getting to know somebody, but also to pick up some of these signs, insofar as if you are meeting weekly, then obviously that regular check-in is an important part to what you're saying.
Absolutely, yeah. The investing in the people for who they are outside of the four walls of the workplace is incredibly important. And it can be, big things. It can be, as you said, the regular one-on-one meetings and starting those meetings with how's things going and conversations. I know that we at our team meeting, we have a little activity where we all go around the group, all 7 of us, and talk about rose, thorn, banana. So, what was good, what was challenging, and what made you happy over the last week. And the discussions that leads into is enormous. It breaks the ice, of course, for a Monday morning team meeting. That's not always the most exciting thing getting around in life, but it engages everyone in different ways. And what it does do, and what I've noticed with our team with that, is someone will share something that happened to them over the weekend, and you can see someone else in the team's probably rolled in on a Monday morning, not really necessarily willing to be involved and vulnerable that morning, but they jump into it because they connect with what that person said. So there is merit in doing that. So yeah, you're absolutely right. The extra with your team members, getting to know them and engaging in those conversations about life outside of work will better position you to be in a spot where you can notice that something's not quite right with them and have that conversation with them.
Mm. I love that. Was that rose, thorn, banana?
Rose, thorn, banana, yeah. Yeah, it's a ripper. Tash, who works with us, brought that in. And of course, when new things come in, there's always a bit of scratching heads and, we're really going to do this. But as I said, it breaks the ice, it engages, and it brings a sense of connection, which is really important.
Yeah, no, I love it. Love it. I might use that one. So what role does vulnerability and then open communication play in creating a sort of a mentally health workplace then?
Yeah, I think vulnerability is something that is, the V word, it gets thrown up probably a lot these days. I know a lot of people talk about it, but at the end of the day, I think what vulnerability does, and when someone is vulnerable, it creates trust and it creates connection. And I know that, as human beings, we're really wired for connection, and we also want people around us to trust us and think that we trust them. So, but it takes real practice as well, Mick. I mean, it's just like saying, for example, Are You OK Day. I'm an Are You OK community ambassador, and Are You OK Day rolls around, and the question is out there around who will you ask today? And 6 or 7 years ago, Are You OK really used to just promote mostly just asking the question. And I love what they've done over the last little while, where there's a lot more to that. There's a lot more around practicing and checking in and being willing to ask the question and thinking about what might happen if the question's not what you think it might be. So everything takes a lot of practice, and vulnerability is certainly something that takes that, the willingness to sit by yourself and think that, for me to get this off my chest to another human being, what's going to happen? What are the ramifications of that? There's a lot of fear around that. But yeah, I mean, I do have lots of conversations with workplaces about mental health and about how they create good culture. And one of the things always at the top of the list is vulnerability, is the fact that a manager or a business owner can sit with a team member and talk about the things that have made them wake up feeling negative, the things that are weighing them down. And then obviously automatically that will transition over to the person listening to that will feel that sense of connection, and they will feel willing to get vulnerable as well. So yeah, as I said, it's not something you just run into and ask and just, look, I've had this happen to me today. I'm not feeling great. What about you? time. You've got to build those relationships first. And then, as I said, vulnerability can cause challenging moments. People might open up that they have been, going through dark patches of their life. They may have been having thoughts of suicide. So you've got to be ready for those moments. If you're going to be vulnerable, you've got to be backed up and ready to go with what's next, because they can open up some bigger challenges.
And no doubt trust plays a big part in that vulnerability piece.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the trust, things not leaving the four walls. I'll just go back to my last point, is that it can open up more challenges, vulnerability open up more challenges. It can, absolutely. But in the long run, the benefits of having vulnerability within your workplace will outweigh any other challenge that you might have. I have a good relationship with the managing director of a business here in Hobart that has about, 14, 15, 16 retail stores across Tassie. And I did a pres for them early days, and they only shared this with me recently. But when I went in there and shared the story, they'd just seen me on social media, and their terms were, I threw grenades through that business. They weren't ready for what happened over the next few weeks and months with people being vulnerable, opening up about their mental health. And at times they looked at each other, the managing group, and thought, what have we done? What have we done bringing him in here to do this? But now, 7 or 8 years on, they sit around and they love the fact that they did that. It absolutely brought some challenges, but it opened up new policies within their workplace. The culture shifted, the way they viewed mental health as a management group that now flows down to their casual staff that work 3 hours a week. They're really proud of the difference that made. So yeah, it'll come with challenges, but it's all beneficial in the long run, no doubt.
Yeah, no, that's a great story, and the power that it can provide. And yeah, no doubt, it can be confronting, making some of these changes that you're talking about. But
Yeah.
ultimately, the benefits are there, aren't they? Um, so look, working with small business owners every day, it's a very all-consuming role, and obviously, a business owner's got everything on the line, typically as far as financial. Basically, it's they put everything in it. So, what practical strategies or habits have you seen that can help small business owners protect their mental health day to day?
Yeah, definitely. I think that we've heard a lot about the not dropping the ball on your physical health and your balance and your burnout. I mean, I sometimes feel awkward talking about this around burnout, but it is a real thing. I think when you're in the midst of something that you're really passionate about, believing in it, seeing good results, having great people around you, you can get caught up in the fact that, wow, this is absolutely skyrocketing and the sky is the limit and we can make an enormous difference here. But again, working in businesses, in conversations with a lot of people, there's not too many businesses that have got a level of success or have got to where they are without someone or somewhere along the line fading out and having a bit of a breakdown or a rough patch and hitting that wall, so to speak. So it is really important that you maintain your physical health and keep the balance as well and put the boundaries up. And talking about myself as well, I had one of those moments where I did lose my way a little bit. People were telling me to slow down, doing talks all the time, just being an advocate, talking about mental health and suicide, basically telling people to piss off all the time until it does happen to you. So, ever since that moment for me is, just simply putting boundaries up and saying no is a big one. Because I think that now, a lot of people, as I said, you want those results. You want people to see you achieving. You want people to come with you on the journey. Saying no almost seems like a silly thing to do. But I think that when you're in the thick of it, when you're stressed out and when you're starting to lose touch with family, your physical exercise, the things that you love to do in your life because of your work, that's really important where you've got to put those boundaries up and start saying no. The other thing that I always have been really big on is purpose and why are really big drivers for anyone. I work in a not-for-profit, but I never lose sight of why I started it, and why I do what I do. I do this because I lost my brother, and I want everyone else to hear my story because it might change the way that they view mental health and not be ignorant to it like I was, thinking it will never happen. But when I have challenging moments, Mick, when I don't want to do things or talks or I'm feeling overwhelmed, I always think about why I do what I do now. Yeah, my brother, but also I've got kids that I know will grow up one day and, be 14, 15, 16. And, what was mental health like when we were 14, 15, 16? It didn't really exist. It was hard to talk about. So that's a really big driver for me that I'm making some positive change for my kids. business owners, I think, should come up with their own why as well. When you're about to walk into a meeting that you feel challenged by or overwhelmed by, or you're feeling stressed or burnout or run down, stop and have a reset and think, why do I actually do this? Go back to those core values of why you set it up, why you're trying to achieve good results, and why you work your ass off every day. Why are they? And they'll give you a little bit of, momentum, a little bit of strength to get through it, but they'll also bring you down and keep you guarded and keep you on track, I reckon. So yeah, it's all those things that we hear about, EAP, conversations, physical health, do them, but also get really clear on your why and your purpose, and don't be afraid to revisit them every now and then.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and I talk about that regularly, so certainly on the same page. And I think, as you say, it's a bit of a compass, so it can sort of straighten you up from time to time when you might stray.
Yeah.
Which is very easy to get distracted in running a business. There's a lot of bright, shiny objects. So I think not just mental health, but just running the business generally. So
Yeah.
that's a really good point. Just to wrap up, mate, what's one thing you'd suggest a business owner, after listening to our chat, should do from here? Just, I guess, not, just to help them with their own mental health if they're struggling, but also to help their people.
As I said, lead by example. I think that, you're only ever going to bring people on the journey with you if they actually see you living and breathing the values and implementing the things that you talk about. So I think that's a real big one. It's, we're talking mental health here as well. So it's easy to bring someone in like me to have a chat about it, but it's all, and, plonk it on the desk of the workplace and encourage people to do more, but it's about what's next, so there is EAP available. There are services available. There are further conversations and training and things that you could do around mental health. So, I encourage people to look at that and not just do the annual, are you okay in the morning tea? Yeah, that's great. And it does, represent that you care about mental health and care about your people, but it's much deeper than that. So I think the follow-up is really important to any sort of mental health awareness that you might bring into the four walls. But as I said, living and breathing and delivering on what you say is really important as well. No employee wants to see someone, waffling on about something, but they're not actually living and breathing it themselves and making it part of their values. So, mental health these days, Mick, I'm much younger than you. Well, not much younger. I'm younger than you, but I know how far we've come in 10 years. I'm sure you would say that going back, even 20 years, how far we've come in this space. And, we've come so far, the stigma is being broken down, but there are still so many people struggling, so many people taking their own life. And so it's a really timely reminder, to just start having further conversations and thoughts about what we can do so that you're not that business that's in that crisis. What can you do right now to prevent it going forward?
Yeah, no, it's good. And it's, like you say, it's all about actions, leading by example as a business owner and being consistent. I think that's the other thing, like in business
absolutely.
in general.
Absolutely.
So, but really appreciate your chat. I think it's such a important topic for anybody, life obviously, but in the context of small business, it's like you say, there's a lot of burnout happens. So managing their stress, their burnout, and their mental health is so important. So thanks again, mate, and look forward to catch up soon.
No problem, mate. Thanks very much for having me. Take care.
No worries.
We'd greatly appreciate you taking a couple of minutes to leave our podcast a review on iTunes. If you don't have an account, simply follow us on Spotify. You'll help other small business owners find the cast and valuable content our guests share.